Hello, Global Theater. My name is Jerry Fialka. Today is May 23, 2023. We want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast. I'm probably wrong about everything. It's an honor and pleasure to be here with Jimbo Ross. Where in the heck you calling in from, Jimbo?
I'm right here in Marina Del Rey, California.
How cool is that? We're neighbors.
That's right,
First,
right next door to Venice, California.
first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
Uh, hmm, the best thing. Well, best thing is just happiness.
I like that. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
My favorite form of information is from the ether zone.
Ether zone, that's where it's from. Yeah, that's it. Well, that is a form. It's like the form is the ether zone. Yeah. You
Right.
wanna you wanna elaborate what is the ether zone?
That's just the intuitive
Oh,
things that we are like in touch with, so they make our universe gel and come together. That's where the higher source of information comes from.
I
That
like the word.
that guides me.
That is good, dude. I like intuitive. I like gel. Okay, so why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Curiosity.
Do you think this need or want to collect information is more innate or more invented?
I think it's innate.
Yeah,
People are just basically curious. They want to know things.
yeah.
Yeah, whether they don't ask about it or not, they have the inquisitive. There's a whole lot going on around us, and it's like you can't help but wonder about this and that and the other thing
That's it. Fill in the blank, Jimbo. I don't know what I think
until I know.
until I know. Do thoughts create emotions?
I think emotions create thoughts.
Dude, I'm getting that more often now. That's good. It's so interesting 40 years asking the same questions, how they sort of, follow a path sometimes, and then sometimes people are completely different. Can humans think without language?
uh, think Thinking is more like feelings. So a thought can be a feeling, but then maybe then they add a word to it, or definitely they try to define it later. But it's mainly it starts as a feeling.
Yeah. Chomsky says a language is not just words, it's a culture, a tradition, unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. What do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Pause.
Dude,
Give
you
some,
are
give some silence, and then come back with something around the back door to kind of go tap somebody in the back of the head with a kind of thought that will just, oh, so sometimes you can't come at people with a thought or an idea or just talk at them. You just gotta, how can I always find in any situation in life, I'm around people, and if what is the best way I can be of service, of use here to best facilitate any positive experience.
beautiful. I love ponder, pause, silence, beautiful words. Jimbo, your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
That's well, in a broad spectrum of things, I think a lot of people are big thinking things, but I think it's all comes from feeling.
Yeah,
It's deeply more profound that way. You feel it, and then you can express it. You
yeah,
can't just, oh, I heard this and blah blah blah. No, you got to know it and experience it, and then talk about it.
yep.
That's a
Two,
feeling.
two questions from Alan Turing, 1950s. One, is thinking a function of the soul?
Well, there's a very broad sense of what your soul is, and I think that the soul is a part of the thinking in the process. Is if you definitely think deep inside yourself for answers to any question, whether it's just a little thing or something deeper than that, it starts with your soul. So probably soul.
Beautiful. Second Turing question is, can machines think?
Uh, absolutely, absolutely not. They can be programmed to think, but they're programmed by a human who
Yeah.
thinks.
I love your certainty, dude. Okay. Do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Hmm. I think within they're both pretty much synonymous in my world. I find happiness in finding the meaning in things.
Yeah.
So they kind of like go in hand in hand. It's just part of the bridge to getting to happiness.
That's the bridge, dude. Can't gotta find that confounded bridge.
That's right.
Does the brain more detect consciousness or create consciousness? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away and we're more detecting it, or are we more so creating it?
No, we're detecting it. It's
Yeah.
it's not even a conscious thought. It's something that you could just be have a blank mind and your subconscious and your super subconscious, which is behind there, will come out and with more profound uh, gems.
I like that word, the super consciousness.
That's more
I want some of that.
that's more like the Zen part.
That's the Zen. Yeah, good. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
Oh, thought.
Dude, there's no right or wrong answers, but that one you got right.
Right. No, thought is instantaneous. Light still has a 1 point what million light years of whatever that the thought, boom, it's right there.
That was good. You know, these little cameras, you shot it like perfect. It's like, man, thought's faster than that.
Oh yeah.
So
Uh,
Audre Lorde, the poet, says you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Yvonne Rainer responded and said, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest?
the tool that hasn't been thought of yet.
Oh my God. I get that answer, and every time I get it, I like go, hallelujah. That hasn't been thought of yet.
Because if all the
We
other tools have been used, sometimes I say, well, let's see what else we got. And
yeah.
that's why Felix the cat reaches into his bag of tricks.
Oh, yeah. Now you're talking.
He reaches into his bag of tricks. And he says, what do we have here? Aha, something new.
That's like you ask Chat GPT, what is the tool that has not been thought of yet? I would like to hear what that contraption says about that question.
Right. What's yet to
What
be discovered?
Yeah, what is yet to be discovered. Very good. What new toy do you suggest?
New toy. That's an interesting question. My usual question, my answer to something like that is whatever floats your boat.
Yep, that's it. And what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
Uh, actually, I don't worry. That's the main thing. You just never got to spend too much time doing. So I don't worry. I have thoughts. I try to put the the surface bubble of the daily activities and all that stuff. I try to like drop all that and calm and all that down. And I think about the positive line of spiritual involvement with my next life I'm going to live here while I'm sleeping. That way you don't drag all this other earthly crap into your spirit world and you have bad dreams.
I call that pre-paving the positive path, man. That's move forward
There
with
you go.
positive.
Moving on.
It's really good here being with you, Jimbo. I appreciate this. So Marshall McLuhan learned from Ezra Pound, the poet, that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might be able to learn to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So, Jimbo, I asked you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
It challenges them, and then sometimes it doesn't make them feel at ease.
Yeah.
Especially cutting edge thought, art, pictures, music of that sort. If it's not something that they can just put a label on and go, oh, okay, I know what that is. They're like, uh, but it's all there. All this art, music, and all the creative, expressive output that comes out is what really is the mirror of what's going on today. And look into the future. People look right into that. You'll see, people are very open to actually seeing what the naked truth.
Love it. Mere naked truth. Great words, Jimbo. So, do artists have moral obligation?
Uh, I think they do, and I think it comes inherently because by the fact that artists do what they do, that is that becomes the moral.
Yes. That
And
be
especially if it's positive. There's a lot of negativity out there. I try to stay away from the negative review and the negative response and the outpour of negativity in art to just to show how ugly things were or have been and all that was the things like that we can never forget. That makes a big strong point. But I like to look into the future and
yeah.
make the world a better place.
So well put. Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Wow, that's interesting. Probably old ideas. New ideas I embrace.
Yeah.
There's a lot of old ideas that come back to, but we're such great old ideas. But then you go, oh, okay, but you learn from the old ideas. So
Yeah.
you can actually get a better vision of what the new vision will be and what you want to strive for.
Yeah, I got it from John Cage. He says, I can't understand why people are afraid of new ideas. I'm afraid of the old ones. But it was really the guy who invented the intermittent windshield wiper, Charles Kettering. He said, people are very open-minded about new things, just as long as they're exactly like the old ones.
Can't be too different.
Yeah.
But if it's revolutionary, it's like, wow, the microwave. But first it was like the devil. I remember at home, I was like, this alien thing came into our house, and I was like 15 years old or something, and it was like that's the beginning of the end. Until you get educated, you realize, okay, well, it has a place in the world, I guess. But
Yeah.
so the mothers of invention are being scrutinized here. So
Woo! That's that woman who invented Toll House chocolate chip cookies.
yeah.
She was making this cooked sugar cookie and the chocolate fell from the shelf into the bowl. She goes, "Hey, what the heck? Just blend it in." Pretty good invention. Hot Toll House chocolate chip cookie. Can't turn that down.
No, but sometimes the greatest things are found out by mistakes.
That's
I
it.
find, I find that out in the kitchen when I'm cooking. All of a sudden, I go, "Oh, wow! Oh, how about that?" You come up with, I got to you got to change it up a bit and experiment on you. Some are flops and some are like, "Oh yeah."
Yeah.
Even when, what'd you do to make that? I said, "Well, this thing fell off the shelf, and there you go."
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever or one of them?
One of my earliest memories was probably probably when I was 3 years old when I got dumped off my tricycle and smashed my nose. Some kid dumped me off my tricycle And I woke up in the hospital, and they had to give me a submucous recess. They had my hands tied to the side of the crib, and they rebuilt my nose and took out my tonsils and adenoids while they were at it. But they gave me penicillin, which they didn't know at the time in 1950. I was born in 53, so that'd be 55 to 56 or so. That I got. I went into penicillin shock. I was definitely allergic to penicillin. I had checked out of my body, and I still remember it to this day. I left my body. I was in the corner of the room looking at everybody around me, and I was like, and they said, "Oh my God, he's this kid's dying. What are we gonna do?" And I was surrounded by this light and this glow and this warmth, and I was just felt this yummy spirits around me. And then I could see, and at that moment I wasn't in pain. I was like, ah! I just went and I went out this little tube, just a zoop. I just left my body, and I was like in this little core of light from the other corner of the building, of the room, and felt this warm glow around me, just massaging me. And then all of a sudden, it was like I got pushed back into my body when it was time to go back, and I was like, boom, and I was like, oh, okay, I could see the spirits in the twinkling light, and I was okay. That's the earliest thing I remember.
Wow, Jimbo, that is so intense. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
That's a loaded question right there. It can go either way.
Yeah.
Totally. It's especially if there's memories that haunt you. Those are the ones that they're bad memories, and especially unresolved issues or things that surrounded by negativity that you haven't dealt with yet. So memory can open up a whole other bunch of baggage you don't want to go into. People try to like stifle that. Well, I like to deal with things as they come along, put them in their perspective, and get on with life. So they're not coming back to go nine at you in the middle of the night. And you're going, oh man, I thought I dealt with that. So, I like to live with a clear conscience. I don't look back, no regrets.
You're my hero, man. You're saying everything I want to aspire to. So, Jimbo, tell me someone within your immediate family, then outside your immediate family, just briefly, who had an impact on you, kind of like a role model. And what specifically was that impact?
My father for the impact. And when I was growing up, my mom and dad worked together. They had an independent insurance agency, so they uh, went out to hustle. My dad was the guy that went out to hustle work, and he would bring me along with him. Everybody liked doing business with Johnny. That was my dad's name, Johnny Ross. And I got to sit and watch him operate, dealing with people. And every time we walked in the door, say, "Hey, Johnny's here." Oh, this. They went in the back room. They had to talk, and they were talking about da 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 da. And he's a people person, and I pretty much became just like him. I embraced the human race
Wow.
in every possible way. And so my father was very, very, and I was told my whole life that my father was no good if it wasn't my mom's mom, who was a man hater. Her husband left her. My mom went through had an earlier marriage, and he left her also. And my dad worked for the auto club and walked into office one day, saw my mom, and said, "Hey, Red, let's go out." They've been together ever since. So there's timing for them, and there's timing for all relationships. But I learned a whole lot from my dad. My mom's mom said, if it wasn't for your mom, you'd be nothing. You'd be living on the streets. Your dad's a no good. He said, "No good, Nick." And I'm going, no, 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 that's not. My older brother believed her, so he would just. So I always knew that, and even when my mom passed away from a Lou Gehrig disease and cancer at the ripe young age of 65 or 6, I got to hang out with my dad for the remainder of his life. He was born in 1910, passed away in the year 2000, lived a nice long life. We got to hang out and be. He was. I'm a spitting image of him. I would have been. They wanted me to be an insurance salesman. They said, "Well, I would have been perfect because I love people and I know how to talk to people and blah 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 and all that stuff." I didn't know as much then as I do now, but I thought I could have been schooled into doing that, but I came home with a viola one day from school, and they couldn't. My older brother got piano lessons. Oh, accordion lessons. They kept pushing me away. So no, don't you go near that accordion. And then it was like, don't you go near that piano. Then they bought him an organ. So don't you go near that organ. So I'm going, so because I was like, I put 3 scoops of sugar on my frosted flakes in the morning. I ran out the door with my PF flyers and off I went with a Superman cape on, right? But my brother can't play a note. He never could play a note. But I came home with a viola one day and could go to my room, shut the doors, and have my own world of music. That's pretty much saved me my whole childhood.
Wow, we're going to get into music. That was good, Jimbo. You're really articulate and fun. I love it. So the second part is someone outside your immediate family, same question, who had an impact on you. And what was that impact?
The person outside of my immediate family, I think first that comes to my mind is my my first actual real viola teacher. The teacher I went to school with in elementary school through junior high school and through high school, he was just a frustrated, you know, could have been a musician but wasn't, so he got a job more teaching elementary school and teaching privately. And I got a lot from him, but I outgrew him. So my folks had a violin player's insured, hands insured. So they called him up and asked him who to send me to get better lessons. They sent me to this guy named Philip Goldberg, who was the most amazing teacher and human being. That my very first lesson just he took me to the Mecca. Okay, we went over to his house. He always had a pot of chicken cooking in the chicken cooking in the kitchen and the place, and he has such a deep understanding of how to do what you do to get there, and he took me there. Gave me the tools that now I use to teach. I share with when I teach. And so he was probably the most influential to me. I was just still in high school. I hadn't really gone out to leave home yet or go out and live my life. And I went to lessons for him. And it was just like my first lesson began with, okay, get out your viola. I get out my viola and he said, stop, put it back. I'm going, holy shit, what's with this guy? So I put it down and he gave me a lecture for 20 minutes about this is your instrument. You're going to be making passionate, lovely music from your soul to pour into this instrument, and you have to connect with it. You pick it up with this intention. It's going to become a part of you. And and I'm reading I've been reading Paramahansa Yogananda and the transcendental meditation books that were happening in the 60s of that era. And I was kind of going, wow, I was taking enough mescaline and mushrooms to finding my spiritual path. But it all just made sense to me. So I applied everything he was teaching me: how to hold the bow, how to own it, how to own your movements. Everything has intention. Everything has a certain, just like this, stop. Now, can you feel this? Where the bow does this. Oh, it was just the most amazing learning experience of my life.
That is so well put, dude. I'm really impressed. And again, we're going to get in music after a couple more of these. Did your parents raise you a particular religion?
I was born Episcopalian. I was an altar boy. Went to church every Sunday.
Do you pray?
I pray. I pray all the time. I'm not an active Episcopalian these days. I went on to combine all the world religion, one faith, one love. Thing. I encompass all the religions into one. I embrace, like I say, embrace the human race.
If God exists, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
Actually, God is in all of us. So it's actually he's already living in all of us. If you look for him, he's not out there somewhere.
Yeah. Do
so
evil people?
I think God is more of a presence of mind than an actual dude hanging out in heaven, waiting for you to get there.
Yeah.
There is a ethereal overall presence in the universe that pretty much encompasses the God.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
They're both. The evil people do exist. They use people as a vehicle too to promote their evil.
It's really the hidden question here, Jimbo, is how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the mob and the samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? But first, how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
Oh, absolutely not. I think you have to be, acknowledge them. And if you don't, you're just negating, you're just denying the fact that they're doing something evil, that they're even there.
Yeah.
So you have to, first of all, acknowledge it. You address the problem. You understand it. You acknowledge it. Then you can address it as you deem appropriate.
Yeah.
And you can, and sometimes you can't reason with insanity. So I don't let that climb into my psyche.
Yeah.
I try to, and the idea about keeping your enemies close is just close enough so they're not you're not one of them.
That is a good line. Don't become your enemy.
Right? Yeah, not that close to become them.
Yeah. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin about 100 years ago. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Well, and then Faulkner said years later, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, they say life is a stage.
Yeah.
We're living our life, and it's a stage. But you know what? There are no retakes.
Yeah. No retakes.
This is live. You can go back and try to fix stuff along the way, but I try to have the presence of mind to do the right thing at the right time always. But we're like I say, we're always human. But the closer you get to that, take a step back, even be the second person for a minute. You just kind of observe instead of just blurt the first thing that comes out of your mouth as a reaction to people. That's what most people do when they pull out a gun and just go "fuck you," and you're gone.
Yeah.
Just process it and then seek deeply for the what will actually be the most productive way to deal with any situation or to respond to anybody on anything.
Yeah.
I've kind of got a good sense of that because I mean, you live enough life, you can live it just. I'm in the moment.
Yep. Be here now, man.
That's
That's
it.
Ram Dass. Beautiful. So Nassim Taleb said games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Someone responded to Nassim's quote and said, villains don't think they're bad. They want control. Heroes want freedom. In fact, Gregory Bateson, the anthropologist, says if a criminal gets caught, does he go, oh, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff that day? Or does he go, wow, I did something morally and socially wrong? So it's a lot of prompts, but the basic question is, does punishment work?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
but people will go down with their cause. They won't. Some people won't change it because you lock them up. They'll, they're in prison devising ways to come back and just really, and they're still running their game in the prisons,
Yeah.
which is just bizarre. I don't know how that goes on like that, but sometimes people see the light. Some people find religion. They find something or whatever it is that all of a sudden they can be rehabilitated, become useful human being in life, doing something productive instead of just waking up in the morning going, okay, how can I scam somebody? People on the computer trying to get your information,
Yeah.
steal your identity and trying to sell it back to you.
Yeah.
What kind of life is that?
Yeah. So Jimbo, when did you sort of talked about your first viola teacher, and you were talking about your older brother and the accordion and these instruments coming into your life. When did you go, I want this to be my calling in life? Where was that tipping point where you said, this is my calling, being a musician?
Probably in junior high school. Actually got my first, excuse me, my first guitar was my folks were chain smokers, and cigarettes came with coupons back in
Yeah.
the back in the 50s, 60s. And when I was about 10, 10 or 12, maybe around there somewhere, I got my mom handed me remember like the blue chip stamps, the green chip stamps, and
Yeah.
cigarettes. Raleigh cigarettes came with coupons. My mom handed me the books. Here, pick something out. She said, there's nothing I want. I went, boom, 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 boom. I want a guitar. I got my first guitar. It's a Stella acoustic, steel necked, steel stringed. Came in the mail, and that was my new love. I played the viola since I was like 7 years old in elementary school, playing classical music, and have to pull out the viola for the folks booze parties when all the kids, Jimmy, go get your viola, play your Telemon piece for everybody. And so I was like put on the spot all the time, and do the cute the see what the kid can do, right? And I go to my room and shut the doors. I was like, Hey Joe, House of the Rising Sun. I got blues records, and the guitar just took me there. And every night, my folks would come home and bring insurance to the dinner table. And it was just we would watch the news, which is always about all the negative stuff, and 6 o'clock news, have dinner, and talk about everything that went wrong in the insurance office that day. And then they wonder why I wasn't interested to become an insurance salesman. uh-uh. No, why do you want to get insurance? That's just I didn't believe in it. It's like so I was like, and then I could go to my room and I had my music, and it took me to that place where it just felt, yeah. And then an older friend of mine gave me a Johnny Winter record. It was the one that was on the first one on Columbia, just
Yeah.
the black album with his picture on the front had like be careful. Oh, it's produced by Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
It just turned me around. I learned all the black blues from like Johnny Winter and then Edgar Winter, and then it got into all the Muddy Blues and the Howlin' Wolf and that music just. And of course, the Ed Sullivan Show.
Yep.
Was on. And there was also some of those other little TV shows. I forget, Shindig.
Oh yeah.
But there would be. I remember seeing Howlin' Wolf on one of those shows. I forget which one it was, and it pretty much was like telling me that's what I want.
Yeah. That's like
and I got good at it quick. So I was playing the guitar, and I played in bands. I played classical viola, and when I was doing all this stuff with the guitar, I played my bands all through like junior high school and high school. And wasn't until years later that I got into. I dropped out of going to Cal State LA. After 3 years of college, because a friend of mine was putting together a swing band. So I had to learn down in Venice as Stan Aroff, guitar player.
Yeah.
And I had to learn Grappelli solos off the record. So I mean, jazz to me was over the top. I didn't know what jazz. I would buy a John Coltrane record and go, wow, that's deep. But I didn't know what it was or how to do it until I got maybe a Pat Martino record that played like crazy good guitar, playing straight ahead. And I went, wow. But I started learning how to play jazz on the viola. But I had to pick up a violin because I played Grappelli solos right off the record. So I had to slow them down I had all the Djangology records that had all the Django Stefan stuff. I just slow them down to half speed. So it's I slow it down to stop. Wrote down every note. Anyway, I studied these solos that were just so effortless. How come they're so cool and fluent? So I worked my butt off to get to that. Until I got Music Minus One records and just started playing all the same licks over and over again until I got tired of hearing them, to push myself to get better and better. And then I got all these musicians used to come down to the St. Charles place, which is in Venice. We played every Friday night. Became St. Mark's Jazz Club.
Yep.
And my girlfriend at the time, who played the violin, she was already working in the studio, so she knew all these studio cats. And a lot of them lived in Venice because it was cool to live in Venice. Rent was like cheap in 74, 75. And Don Ellis, jazz trumpet player, had a big band. He was putting his band back together again and asked this one viola player to be in it. He was coming down to see me play, and he's going, but he didn't play jazz. He was a strictly classical player. They didn't really need to improvise to play the touches. He needed to play the notes on the page. But Mikey Novak said, he's a major major string player, like no whack. He gave my name to Don Ellis. Said, "You got to call this guy Jimbo." Oh, by the way, that's where I got the name Jimbo from this group. Dr. Jazz, the clarinet player, decided my name was going to be Jimbo. Everybody had nicknames.
Yeah.
The bass player was Fingers Bayer, and you're Jimbo. And I said, "Okay, I'll be Jimbo. Fine." And man, we played once a week. The place was packed every time we went back. Venice was more fun and free then. And sure enough, I went to go meet Don Ellis, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm playing jazz in this band down in Venice." And I come in with my hair down to here, with my red high top tennis shoes, and a white Mexican wedding shirt, the little cheap ones you could buy, And I show up at the Union for the very first rehearsal, and Don Ellis wrote a big band chart featuring me as a soloist. We had electric string quartet,
Nice.
and we had our very first. He introduced me as the only jazz violist in captivity. And I was still just cutting my teeth on jazz, but I was really ripping it pretty darn good. Even then, I poured myself into it. So we had our very first concert at the John Ansett Ford Pilgrimage Theater summer concert series there behind the Hollywood Bowl. That
Yep.
place you have free concerts. And the cello player leads to me and says, "Jimbo, be really nice to this guy who's coming to the concert. He'll get you work." I'm going, "Give me work." I was Jimbo the handyman in Venice. I worked in a hardware store all through school. So I was playing clubs at night and working on people's garbage disposals and water heaters and drippy faucets, working for all the realtors in town that were, just to make some money.
Yeah.
And so sure enough, John Ellis introduces me, and I have my own app in front of the big band. I'm playing electric string quartet. Don Ellis music is difficult.
Yep.
Odd time signatures, everything 5, 4, 7, 4, 7, 8, 11. And I run up, unplug from the string quartet, run out front, plug into an amp, blow a solo with this big band going, just and then I have to. My hair is standing straight up, my heart's pounding out of my chest. I run back to the quartet, plug in, and continue playing the charts, which I memorized before the very first concert because
Yeah.
we learn that stuff is you got to feel it. You can't just count it and try to read the notes. And have it swing.
Yeah.
So sure enough, anyways, I went home that night. The guy came backstage and I met him. His name was Bill Henderson. He's a violin player, contractor. And we talked for an hour on the phone. And he says, "The hell," he was black violin player. So he was he got pushed aside a lot of the Hollywood stuff, but he knew all the black producers and all the disco stuff was happening. We got to do all the Earth, Wind and Fire, Barry White, Donna Summer, Bobby Boo Bland, the Gap Band, Rolls Royce. It just goes on and on and on and on. There were strings on all that stuff at the beginning of the disco era.
Yep.
And we were doing records every day. I was playing clubs every night. So he's pretty much my mentor as far as getting into the music business. Just right place, right time. And the doors just open. I was like, boom.
And you deserved it, Jimbo. You have tons of talent, and I love your playing. And I'm curious, when you started to write your own music, a screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Kubrick says the opposite. Great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. When you're writing an original Jimbo composition, what role does intention play in your creative process?
First of all, I write on experience. And if it's not just my own experience, it's something that I feel strongly about or something that I feel that I know enough about that I can actually write about it and actually put it into a song. And, writing the music is one thing. I can write notes on a page because music just goes and goes and goes. They have expression and emotion. Lyrics is a whole other ballgame. That's why these great lyric writers of the Tin Pan Alley era and all the classic tunes that came out of the 30s and the 40s are just there was somebody wrote the music and there's all these lyric guys from Ira Gershon to all the other ones before him.
Yep.
And so I thought, man, and so I had to really dig deep to work on how to massage words that made sense and flowed like the way I write music. The music's got to flow. Now the lyrics got to go. You got to tell a story, and it's got to be somewhat kind of like rhyme.
Yeah.
And also the more I started going on it, where does this creative flow come from? You just don't know. I just keep pushing it, until it's not as hard. It just starts flowing.
Yeah.
I would start writing. We have a dog. We had a dog, and I would go out starting to walk a dog, and I'd get a groove going. I'm walking the dog, and then don't how I feel, and just then I come up with a hook. I go
Yeah.
home and I start writing.
Yep.
Or I'll come up with a bass line or just a groove, and so it's first of all it's got to have a groove. I don't write
Yep.
just I don't write a poem and try to figure out how to make music out of it. Some people do that, like Sting did with the Fields of Gold. That was a book of music, a book of words that he got when he wrote to
Yeah.
set that to music, or some poetry that is which is great to do. I could probably do that too. But when I was just writing something I feel and have it try to make sense with what the groove is doing to make the words all work to make people go, that's a tune. But the groove is what catches people. Most people, sometimes they remember some lyrics. A lot of people know a lot of lyrics because you see them in live concerts. They're just singing along like puppets with some of
Yep.
their favorite bands and that stuff. But so I try to write something that means something, not just blah blah blah.
Yeah. Very good, Jimbo. And Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your listener when you're writing your original piece?
Well, I'm thinking that if it's going to sound good, if it's got a good beat, it's got a good feel, it's going to be something that people are going to love. So I'm thinking about what's going to make people rock, what's going to rock their world,
Yeah.
or what's going to take them to that special place. I'm just like, wow, they're moved, beyond words, or they're just they're elated. Even when I go out and play Fisherman's Village, I'm in hog heaven because people show up and they're just some of them are singing along, and they're eating it up, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yep. That's beautiful. Move your body. And McLuhan says everything we invent extends some humanness, like knife and fork extends our teeth, shutter and a camera's extension of our eyelid. Even non-tangible, say religion or philosophy, might be an extension of consciousness. What does the violin or viola extend for you? What humanness?
Oh, it's the deepest part of my soul that comes out, and it's like a blank canvas, and I've got this multicolored paintbrush
That is
that
good.
could just do any kind of swirls and movement to I'm painting my way with notes that people just they can taste it.
Taste it. Well, that's perfect because Copeland says the four elements of music are melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color.
Right?
Before we get into the four, how do you explain to the normal lay person what is tone color?
Oh, tone color is what makes it's actually the essence of what you're trying to convey. It's like the tone. It's not about what you say, it's how you say it, and how you say it has a tone.
Yeah,
And the tone is what sets the vibe. So
yeah.
that's vital, really vital. Tone is a whole big part of it for expressing what you're trying to say.
It's a great explanation because most people will say timbre, and I'll go, well, timbre is another musical term, but this essence is better for the lay person to understand what tone is. But you touched on this, him saying melody, harmony, rhythm, and tone color. You said the groove, so that's rhythm. How do you integrate melody, harmony, rhythm, groove, and tone color? What's your process of integrating?
Well, I start with a groove, and then you get you finish out some of the rhythm stuff to that, and give it some basis. A basic idea of what the color of the tune is supposed to, what kind of vibe it's going to have. It's going to be a swing. It's going to be a straight eighth groove, or it's going to be a or and then like I did one tune on my album when it goes from one to the other. And that's kind of a popular thing that some groovers do, even in jazz tunes. They'll start out swinging, they'll go Latin, and they'll
Yeah.
go back into swing. you know, and that's kind of so people. Whoa, okay, now we're into this. You know, it's good. You're taking them on a little journey. So the groove is like very instrumental because that's going to get people right
Yeah.
away. If they like the groove, they'll be nodding their head almost right away, even if it's a dumbass groove. They'll still be grooving somewhat, but you know, I like to is you know sometimes some things don't have to be that complex or that over the top. You know what the heck was that? You know, keep it simple. Simple works.
Well,
And
that yeah, it reminds me George Clinton said there's a fine line between disco and funk, and he says funk is the absence of. Miles says it's what's important is the space between the notes. How do you integrate silence when creating music?
well, you know what? I had to work long, long and hard at trying to analyze and deal with that exact situation because I play with a bow, right? I'm not like a woodwind player or a brass player that has to breathe.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to take breaths because when I had played in my fusion band Affirmation, you know, played all this up tempo funk stuff that was just do
Yeah.
and I blow a solo. You know, after a while, I'm getting bored. Well, it's that stuff that make a statement, stand back a little bit, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it's say something, make a little conversation. You're not just like you're not running away from somebody. You know, how fast can I get there? You know,
Yeah.
when you're younger, you're doing that.
Yeah.
The more you go to, you mature. You know, you can just okay, take your time to get there. And how you gonna take them there? Oh, we're
Yeah.
gonna make a little left here. We're gonna make a little pause. We're gonna stop for a soda here, and then we're gonna gotta like take it on a journey. So I had to work long and hard how to like phrase because I have a
Wow.
bow. I had to like okay to stop myself.
Yeah.
You know, this can't be too fragmented though, because some cats of that 50s cool. Like when I was playing with Art Pepper played with a Don Ellis big band for a
Yeah.
minute, and he was this more like 50s cool bop,
Yeah.
and he was doing that short sporadic.
Yeah.
I'm going, what's that? I was, I was, I was learning like fluid lines, a lot of these lines that Capelli was playing, or listening to like Wes Montgomery or something where they played these cool little lines and then moved to another cool line and then played another cool line. It was like, man, that's how you get from here to there and through the chord changes.
Yeah.
Actually get there and land on the right time on the right note and
And
then
then
pick it up again. That's what
yeah,
I've been
you
cultivating my
learn
whole.
yeah, learn how to play between the notes or know there's space between the notes so important. In fact, Duggo, one of my favorite artists in Venice, said Thelonious Monk heard all the notes Charlie Parker heard, but only decided to play some of them. Which is like, yeah. But Monk also said there are no wrong notes. Any comment?
Right. There are no wrong notes. Monk would just go, bomb. He started just throw his left hand down. I was like, whoa, data, do data, do data, and another minimalist that I really the most famous one is Duke Ellington.
Yeah.
Ba 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 ba
Yeah.
ba. That's C Jam Blues, right? He would play a line or play a little improv and just and
Yeah.
then wait.
Less
Put some
less is more. Yeah.
impressionistic stuff in there.
Yeah, there's my one another friend says the three you brought up this word taste too. He says the three T's of music are technique, theory, and taste. You've learned the technique, you know the theory. How does one acquire taste?
Maturity.
Yeah, what a word.
that really there's knowing when to fold, when to walk, when to run, when to
Yeah,
how much to dish out, and then kind of when to pull back, and that's taste.
yeah,
And what and it's like what besides being the self expression over a tune is just and you got to come up with some and it's just okay. You're actually creating something yourself. Just some people, which isn't, of course, some people say there's room for abstract, which is not my bag.
yeah.
Abstract, this is no real flow to that for me. But that to me, whatever the taste is for the tune and what makes it tastier,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
and that's
McLuhan said, yeah, another thing McLuhan says in regards to this word taste, Jimbo, is song is slow down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. Any comment?
language difference. I mean,
Yeah.
meaning
Yeah, so it's interesting. There's two things going on. He's saying song is slow down speech. The reason cultures have different musical taste is ultimately connected to language difference. I'm not saying it's right or wrong what he's saying, but it's just this idea. Is it because you play what's, called world music? You play music from other cultures.
yeah.
So, it's how much is the language difference uh, determining the musical taste difference.
Well, the language, the style of music, or the mode of what whether it's tango, whether it's Bulgarian folk music,
Yeah,
where there's or American swing, or African juju music, or everything's got their thing. And if you study in Brazilian music is so rich and full of every style of, and there's names for all these different rhythms and polyrhythms. It's like amazing. It completely changes the whole landscape of what a tune would feel like.
yeah,
And once you learn the tools, then you can actually use them and crossbreed them, actually use them in other elements too. So
yeah.
I find it's this universal language. I played in almost every imaginable musical combination across the world. I'm sure there's a few I haven't, but I'm always open to more unique stuff, and I'll adapt to whatever the mode is to make something really work in that idiom. Like I'm going to be playing bebop on a you can cross a few styles and actually integrate them like they did with like a lot of like Cuban Latin Afro Cuban jazz. That's a lot. Latin, Afro, Cuban. Well, that's a lot of elements all thrown together,
Yep.
and it works.
Yeah, what's more fundamental, music or language?
Music is a language.
Yeah. Tell me an instrumental that makes you laugh.
Okay, I come up with a couple of them, which just pop into my head, but they don't necessarily make me laugh. But instrumental, I'm not sure if it's really an instrumental. Probably, I don't, well, there's several. I heard something on the radio on the radio today. It was a classical station. It was a Gershwin piece called Promenade, and it was just so whimsical because it was just like just like somebody walking down the promenade. It was actually perfect. So I chuckled today when I heard that.
That is great. You know, Ruth Draper says the key is to bring the audience up onto the stage and into the scene with you. It is they who give you even more than you give them in the way of imagination and creative power. Sounds good. How do you do that?
Keep it real.
How do you keep it real? What you're a performer. You know how to be on the stage and make this amazing musical magic, but how do you bring the audience onto the stage with you?
You have to reach out to them and
Yeah.
make it. It's about them. that's the whole thing. It gives you back so much more once you find that magic to be able to read. That's what makes me like I'm a people person. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what moves people?
Yeah.
And if I find I'm doing something and I'm doing something on a violin or viola or by 5-string electric that people going, he's playing the violin. How can you do that on the violin? You
Yeah.
know, so it's just like, and I make it my horn. I make it my axe. I make it my vocal voice. You know, when Ellis scats, when
Yeah.
when Cab Calloway does his thing or whatever, it's just I make it sing. And when you make it sound, it's coming from deep inside and it's real. You know, it fucking just blows people away, and you're there with you. You're taking them
Yeah.
with you on a little journey. And when I'm singing, I sing the same way. You know, you're making it. You know, I grew up listening to the great blues singers and even some of the great jazz singers from Sinatra down to Bessie Smith. I mean, they're
Yeah.
just I loved what really as a younger age. I just remember I loved to hear people be able to sing where they just spill out their guts and walk around in it.
Yeah.
And
That's
they spill their oh yeah, it's just I said, how do I do that? I said, somewhere in me there's a trap old black man. I guess I don't know. I got if you get the feeling for it, it's become part of my chemistry. It's
yeah.
just all my influences become what we end up doing.
Yeah, it's a soup like Jimbo. That was you spill your guts and walk around in it. That's like when I hear their music, I go, it burned a hole in my speaker, and my brains were leaking all over the curb. But here's Leonard Cohen. I'm curious your thoughts on this one. The only way you can sell a concert is to put yourself at risk. And if you don't do that, people know. What role does risk play?
Well, that's just a double-edged coin there because you have to. My school of thought is you got to bring it every time and leave nothing. Every time I go out to play, I bring it and there's nothing left when I'm done. Otherwise, I can't just go through the motions. So that's because when I saw people like James Brown get on stage and just do that thing, or Marilyn Monroe when she got on stage and sang on the Ed Sullivan Show, wrapped herself up and sang this sexy tune that took you to another place.
Yeah.
They did it to the nth degree. You couldn't have done it any better. That kind of performance. So and when performers and Leonard Cohen, he is more of a reserved performer. You
Yeah.
have to look deep inside to find him in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's good you can't just let it all, out like the James Brown thing, or you got to leave something back there that people are still waiting to hear that other little thing, and you can bring it to that point where they're actually just slayed and left on the floor, and then start all over again and build another phrase and do something. That's wow, just masterful. So as and the thing that what professional bands get into is that they find out what works and they try to duplicate that every time they perform when they're on tour. They can't expect to be that amazing when they're doing 20 shows a month or doing one-nighters all across the US unless they're getting strung out on dope and they lose their way along the way too. But unless some people are that gifted where they can actually just do this is what they do.
Yeah.
And so but it's just hard to have that bar. That bar is set. You got to bring it to here. At least you can't just kind of people don't go to a show to see somebody get up to here and that's it. What happened? Where's the juice? That's what we came for. So there's a way to be able to do that without blowing your total wad right there, right, as they say, right? You got to be able to hold it and sustain it and carry it, and that's hard to do, especially if you're doing a lot. I find it if I'm singing a lot or playing a lot, my fingers are going, wow, I'm toast. Because you put out, especially you putting out that kind of energy, you got to be careful how much how you dose that. I remember when I played with the OJs at the Greek Theater. We were like 5 nights a week. First night, I'm going, wow, look what they did. Wow, that was incredible. Second night, exactly the same. Everything, every line, every move, every knee drop. There was nothing made up. Everything was pre-done. Money, 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 money. Don't gung, gung, gung. Ba, 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 done, money, money. It's a high note and he comes down on his knee. Yeah. You know, or it's just they know what works and people come for that too. So you got to
Yeah.
put on a show. But I'm now there's so much like show going on. There's some great tunes, but it's all show with smoke and mirrors and dancing girls and distractions
Yeah.
going on without the the integrity of what's selling the song here.
Yeah. What does courage mean to you now?
Courage just to courage is keeping it real and knowing that you're not knowing when you're not and calling yourself on it. That's the courage to face your own.
Calling yourself on it, because that's Viola Spolin said, if the audience cannot see your struggle to achieve something, they cannot root for you to achieve it.
Right.
How does this role of, what does struggle mean to you?
Well, and part of it is being an actor. You're acting out this part. You're living this tune that takes you to. But maybe it's a song about to hell and back, and then all of a sudden you made it through it.
Yeah.
But you got to be convincing. So yeah, you got to be convincing the fact that you say, "What did I do to be so black and blue?" Right? And then if you're not living it, if it's not coming for real, that's why when I had some friends of mine that were the black artists, and then they says because I'm playing black music. He says, no, you're not. You're just not your music, man. I go, that's what I grew up on. So you can't please everybody all the time.
Yeah.
I'm just keeping it real. I'm doing what I grew up on. My dad was from Chicago. He played the piano. I grew up with all kinds of music in the house. Everything from Fats Domino to to Frank Sinatra and Tony Bennett, and everything and Tito Puentes and all the other stuff. Harry Belafonte.
Yep. Frank Zappa was on the LA Free Press in 1969 talking about Pauline Oliveros, and her work was sound, above the audible and below, creating a mass. And Frank said, not that it created a mass, it created something audible. It produced a some indifference tone, which happened to be located within the audible frequency range. By combining something so high you couldn't hear it and something so low you couldn't hear it, it yields something in the middle you could hear. Whether or not you liked what you heard in the middle is another question. The concept is brilliant. Any thoughts on this some indifference tone?
It's all tone. It's on the tone that people are either going to like the tone or it's going to be something that's going to be like screaming, shrieking. If you're into like a death metal band, that's what they like. However, that is not that is counterproductive to anything that's like any kind of musical, genuine, musical taste.
Yeah.
So the tone. That's why I love the viola. Finding out that the viola is like the human voice range. It's in the middle. We're the middle fiddle, they call us. And the violins get to go. The violas are going. It's been my whole life in the orchestra, and playing with the Brahms and the Strauss and the Beethoven and the Mozart, and we're playing. That's why we're all the meat. We're all the juice. We're all that harmony is.
Yeah.
And all those years of playing it, I think we're actually sitting right in front of the woodwind section, which is doing a lot of those harmonies as well. And that's that stuff that climbs under people's skins. If you listen to like a Jeremy Lubach arrangement on like Natalie Cole's Unforgettable album or anything he's recorded on like Michael Bublé albums or bless his soul, he passed away a couple of years ago, but I learned more just by keeping my ears open, and what he wrote was just those harmonies, those tones with notes like this close together, and the way that the things were voiced created a vibration that was just it's kind of stuff that climbs under your skin. That's what I strive for, to create that illusion to a reality. I asked Jeremy, I said, Jeremy, how do you write that? I wish I could study with you to see here how you can arrange like this or put the violas like this or all that. And he says, Jimbo, I don't know how I write what I hear it in my head and I just write it. I couldn't
Yeah.
teach anything. And so anyway, and I played a Johnny Mandel date at Capitol Records for a Diane Krall record. And it was for 4 violas and 4 alto flutes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was this gorgeous sound of just no violins way up high, nothing way down low, no cellos, no nothing. And it's just, who would think of doing that? And
Yeah.
it turned out to be the most lovely thing that people would hear. So tone has a huge thing to do with it, which means tonality also. The
Yeah.
tonality where notes are placed. Even where tell Dizzy Gillespie, where we played those high notes are above and what's his name? Maynard Ferguson.
Maynard, yeah.
His big thing was playing these screechy high notes. Not because they were actually that musical, but because it was just like he could do it.
Yeah.
And wow, listen to that. You know, one trick pony. What
One
about
trick pony, yeah.
what about
Well,
all the stuff right in here that's like is the people appreciation range?
yeah.
Because that's why when I got my 5-string violin, a viola, because the viola with a violin string on top, I started playing too high, and I could because it was there. The E string. I usually normally just play high on my A string, and it has a whole other angst to it. Just playing high on an A string is still within the human ear range to be able to really appreciate, especially in contemporary music.
Yeah.
And if you're playing a violin concerto and you're playing a strat, it's going to sound gorgeous no matter where you are in the instrument. However, so I really relate to that the tone, as an answer to your question there, the tone has a huge element as to what people are going to appreciate. And I'm concerned about what people will appreciate because
Yeah.
I would hear some people would play an electric violin. I swear it's peeling the paint off the ceiling. It's so
Yeah.
screechy high and just there's no EQ or just whoa.
Yeah.
But they're on fire and the place is noisy and people just don't
Yeah.
uh,
You have a great sense of ear. You're a listener. Listening is one of the main elements of music, and people don't always realize that. But Ben Radcliffe is the uh, music writer who said, "I mean sound as it has long functioned among jazz players as a mystical term of art, as in every musician finally needs a sound, a full and sensible embodiment of their artistic personality, such that it can be heard at best in a single note." So me and you can hear Miles and we go, "Oh, that's Miles." And Ben said, "Well, Miles is fragile and pointed." Coltrane, "Oh, slightly undercooked and urgent." If a music writer that you really respected was going to talk about Jimbo's sound in a couple words, what 2 words would you would appreciate and go, they got the Jimbo sound?
soulful gumbo.
Oh my God, that is so good. Soulful gumbo. Because I was waiting for you to say bodacious because that's the name of your record company. And I love it because I looked it up and it's actually from 1837. Bold and audacious. And
Uh-huh.
then in 82 it became popular because of the movie Officer and Gentleman. But audacious means daring and confident, which is you got to be daring and confident.
In an Oxford dictionary from the 50s too, and it also was listed as noteworthy.
Noteworthy. That's good. Noteworthy.
And but I tried to think of a name of my record label when I was coming up with stuff, and this percussion player named Brad Dutz said, why don't you call it Bodacious, Jim Bodacious? Because people
Yeah.
call it Jim Bodacious. They said just oh. So
Yeah.
I found out nobody had it with music. There was Bodacious Buns.
Right.
There was a bakery in Manhattan Beach. There was Bodacious Tatas in Texas. There's nobody had Bodacious with music, so I got to
Nice.
grab it. And Bodacious means noteworthy and outstanding. Yeah, so that's one good word I use. Dare to be bodacious.
It's beautiful. And you just mentioned this. T.S. Eliot said poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Hmm. Ah. Soul stirring gut feelings.
Nice. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
They're pretty both important, but I say conviction.
You've accomplished a lot, Jimbo. How do you rate these three elements, luck, skill, and ambition? What played the biggest role, second and third?
I think ambition comes first. And then, well, skill. What was the first one he said? He said,
Luck.
yeah, luck. Oh, wow. Those are all pretty like synonymous. All three of those together make a pretty good bet that you might make it. It takes
Two of
a
my
little,
film.
yeah,
Say it again.
you got to have the ambition, but you also got to have the skill to have the ambition, and a little luck along the way will carry you there.
Yeah. The golfer Gary Player said, "The more you practice, the luckier you get."
Yeah. I forget who said this, though. My wife would remember. She's not in the room at the moment, but she says, I don't practice to get better. I practice so I don't get worse."
There you go. Two of my film heroes have mantra, ignore yourself. There's no self-expression. And Cecil Taylor, a great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, music making more self-expression or more you're a vehicle for whatever technologies, environments, and cultures are dominant?
I'm pretty much a vehicle for I think everything that happens in your life that's affected you at the moment is affecting how you feel and what you're thinking, and it's going to be pretty much dictating what. Although sometimes I can skip all that because I go back to my roots and what's driving me. I feel what I'm feeling, so
Yeah.
It could be the latter too.
Is music making art? No, excuse me. Can music making, art making be egoless?
I think it should be egoless.
That's amazing.
I'm a messenger. I'm a messenger of the master somewhere, wherever it's coming from. It's just like it's going. That's the answer to the other question. Yeah, it's coming through me.
Yeah.
For some like cosmic, magnificent place of wonder, and you keep that wonder alive with your imagination and your. It comes through.
Yeah.
Who knows where this inspiration comes from?
Yeah.
Just like picking cherries off a tree.
Yeah. They asked Sun Ra once, Ben Sidran said, you worked with Fletcher Henderson. Were you influenced by him? And he goes, no, I'm influenced by the birds and the crickets.
The birds and the crickets.
In the bird, I'm influenced. I'm coming. That's where my influence is. That's same with Eric Dolphy said that too. So is perception reality?
You can make it a reality.
Yeah. Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Well, everything I like to think of is actually not impossible. But in my lifetime, no one really knows.
Yeah.
About the main issues, especially going on in the world today. So I don't go down the rabbit holes of like thinking the impossible stuff. I try to think what I can do. Oh yeah, well it's not impossible, but I'm still waiting for my world tour. It hasn't happened yet.
There you go. Well, Jimbo, this is interesting because for the years you've been playing music, tell me one major element that stayed the same and one major element that's changed.
In the industry or just in my
No, in Jimbo playing music, your personal journey, your personal sound.
I think when I fell into something in my 20s that when Jimbo arrived and it was like a a local phenom that I became an entity that just spread everybody knew who I was. I was friends with everybody. So everybody, oh, Jimbo, call this guy Jimbo. Oh, Jimbo can do that. Oh, just, but years later, we're being replaced by a lot of electronics and other things and non-human played instruments. So in a lot of ways that I'm more capable and ready to do what it is that I've been doing my whole life and cultivated to the point where it's mature enough where I'm
Yeah.
really in the zone.
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to be able to do that these days is becoming harder to find.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is just being taken away by the electronics and this AI stuff doing now, trying to replace film score writers.
Yeah.
They can't do that.
No.
They could try. The strings were replaced by synthesizers back in the 80s. I
Yeah.
was working day and night till like 83, 84, and then or even before then. And then boom, nothing. We were done.
Wow.
I was playing clubs and bars, playing string quartets. Now I can't even get a string quartet gig for a wedding because DJs are doing it all.
Right. Yeah.
For even bands and whatever else, that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And we're being sold down the river because the union's fighting for us, and I believe in the union, but there are all these runaway productions going over to Prague, Warsaw, Budapest, Bratislava, 3 orchestras in London. They're working around the clock over there doing our American movies. So,
Wow.
because there's no union and they don't have to pay royalties. So the fat cats want to be, even more fatter and just keeping all the profits, let alone, it's really,
wow.
really a shame. So we're sitting around and half the big studios, Paramount closed their soundstage 20 years ago. That was the biggest stage that did more big famous motion pictures than the Fox and the Sony and all these places around. There used to be orchestras in all these places every day.
Yeah.
Zip. And if there are few and far between, and you're lucky if you get on the call these days. So
yeah. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. Tell me a weakness. And normally we're taught to overcome a weakness. Tell me a weakness that you've turned into a strength.
I think over the years I have to think back a ways because we're the evolution of my growth and everything. I've always been, since the days when I was an altar boy and growing up as a kid and looking for truth and divine guidance and knowing how to live a life of just being of a godlike entity or so. But life happens and you get in the middle of everything and you forget some of that. But that's always been a backbone of where I've been. So I can't really put a finger on exactly by what I think would be a weakness. I'm sure I've had plenty, but maybe the weakness of just in believing in myself.
Yeah. And you mean that's propelled you to continue the journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you brought up the word truth because Louis Buñuel says, I'm for anyone who seeks the truth, but I part ways when they claim they found it. Now, most people go, oh, that's good. But one person said, that's bullshit. Because if I'm going to seek something, it's because I want to find it. So the cliche goes, the journey's more important than the destination. Why do we have to name or seek a destination if the journey's more important?
Well, you got to set your eyes on a goal, whether you get there or not. It's the journey that makes it worthwhile. Like you just said. It's what you do and how you get there. Because some people get to their goal and they screwed everybody all the way. And are they happy? Not the ones I've known.
Yeah. Can you forget to die?
Yeah.
Good. Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have any say on how that's going to happen, how that plays out. We don't write the screenplay on that. I just want to live life to the fullest and keep my side of the street clean and love love and encourage people all around me to be the best they can at all times,
Yeah.
and live a good long life. And when I, like when I go out there, when I look back, I just want there to be no regrets.
Yeah.
You know,
Jimbo, we got about 10 more minutes. It's really been fun. I really appreciate it. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside?
I think women are more intuitive in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah. Here's 5 Alan Watts questions, just briefly off the top of your head in a couple words. Number 1, who started it all?
Who started it all?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
2, are we going to make it?
Come hell or high water,
3, where do we put it?
on the top shelf.
4, who's cleaning it up?
We are.
5, is it serious?
It's so serious, I almost forgot to laugh.
That's like Frank Zappa says, I'm very serious about being not serious.
Right.
On what occasion do you lie?
Actually, under no occasion.
Wow. Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when.
You can turn it into a rainbow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. You'll love this. The guy the other day, he says, anger can be a productive emotion when you're going to write a song. Turn that anger into writing a song. I says, hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
How do you find peace of mind?
Forgiving.
Wow, that is a key. No one ever says that. Mark Twain said, forgiveness is the scent the flower gives off after the foot steps on it.
Wow.
I
Brilliant.
mean, it's
That's
a great word. How do you forgive? I mean, that is a real challenge to most people. They're like, I'll forgive you, but you blah, blah, blah. I say, you can't say the word but when you're saying you're sorry or forgiving. How do you do that?
by the time we get to the top of the hill, if you drag everything with you, man, you got more baggage than you can deal with. So
Yeah.
you can't even deal with now.
Yeah.
Let it go. Let us find its place. Acknowledge it
Yep.
and let it go. Don't own it.
Don't own it. Acknowledge and let it go. Wise words.
Yeah.
So, Jimbo, there's this line that goes, you create what you resist. Bob Goldthwait, the comedian, morphed it into you. Yeah, you are what you hate. James Joyce said, it's a curious thing how your mind is super saturated with the religion in which you say you disbelieve. And Louis Buñuel said, thank God I'm an atheist. So any thoughts on this line? You create what you resist. I'm not saying you, Jimbo, but one creates what one resists. Any thoughts on that line?
Well, you know what? We get the webs we weave along our way to a pursuit to a healthy happiness. There's a few little trench holes we get our feet stuck into along the way, with all good intentions of not doing that. So inadvertently we attract those negative pit holes that we actually end up in. Is how you deal with them to get out of them
Yeah.
and move on.
Move on. Utah Phillips said, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
Uh, there are no rules.
Oh my God. No one ever says that. That is a great answer. There are no rules. That is beautiful. What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Well, you have a right to what to what you're believing in and what you right to do what you want, but you have to own up to the responsibility of what happens with your actions after that may or may not have a good effect on things.
Yeah.
You have to
Very
own up.
cool.
Own
Own
up
up.
to your own mishigas.
What's the difference between rebellion and revolution?
Well, rebellion is just a standing up from the kitchen table and running into the other room. A revolution is so you're changing the whole diagnostics of the situation.
If you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Don't worry about it.
Which way should toilet paper come off the roll, over or under?
That's funny. When I was growing up, it was always under. And when I used to go to Richard Green's house, we'd rehearse string quartets at his house all the time when he had the Green String Quartet. And I noticed his toilet roll was rolled over the top. And I thought,
Yeah.
huh. Well, so I turned him around. And he couldn't figure out who was doing that. He says, we got in a whole discussion about that. Why this is right. I was on the bottom because that's the way my folks did it. I didn't put much thought in it. But I think now it seems to be easier done when it's just off the top. That way the bottom part is dragging all the way down to the floor. And you can actually, so isn't that funny?
The patent has it going over. It's 100 years old. 80%, 90% of people say over, but the people who say under have their reasons. That's the beauty.
No kidding. Yeah. I bet.
If a publisher was to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Bodacious.
They want to scent the glue in the binding. What smell?
Gardenia.
Love it. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of? Good laugh.
Yeah. Oh. That could be almost anywhere. But well, I love Tahiti, so I would love to be a statue in Tahiti because that's paradise. Made out of this nautilus shell that I'm wearing around my neck.
Oh, nice. Very good. I love that. I've seen that live at Traders.
Yeah.
Tell me something good you never had and you never want.
Something good I never had and I never want.
Yeah.
How about another wife?
That's a valid answer. Thank you.
I got my match. I waited my whole life and found Nika, who came into my back from Paris Conservatory in 1978. We met on a Barry White Earth, Wind, and Fire Donna Summer record dates back in the day, except I wasn't her type. She never picked up on my voodoo. We went out and somehow one day in 1990 have been together ever since. Timing is everything.
Beautiful.
And I'll do nothing to mess this one up.
Beautiful, Jimbo. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
Cultural shift, the cultural shift into homespun creative music played by human beings.
Hello.
And being appreciated and acknowledged worldwide and compensated for it appropriately.
Beautiful.
Everybody listens to a radio. Everybody's world is consumed with some kind of music in the car, in a restaurant, in a shopping. We're the givers.
Yep. You are, and you give good, dude.
Yeah.
Okay, how has music, playing music, shaped your behavior?
Yeah, taught music has taught me everything with how to listen. See, people play music, but some people it doesn't make them a good musician. A good musician listens.
Yeah,
And in order to be a good player, you have to listen. In order to play, get along with people, you have to make a conversation happen. You have to know when to listen, know when to play, and how to work with people. And that is just a concept is across the board with living life. Keep your eyes and ears open, and we're all in this together. There is
yep,
no there is no ego.
it's beautiful. You know, Anthony Burgess wrote a lot of books, but he was also a musician and a composer. He said, "We must now ask some very different questions about the relationship between music and life." What question remains unresolved for you?
Well, I know the answers, but it's I think I everybody thinks they know the answer, but world peace.
Beautiful. That you almost answered the way John Cage said. That's a very good question. I wouldn't want to ruin it with an answer.
Right.
But world peace is something that we should all strive for, and I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, people say you can negotiate with a terrorist, but you can't negotiate with a chick singer. That was a bad joke. I mean, we can say that about any instrument or something, but it's,
Two
no,
more and we're out of here.
no, my key, my way. This is the groove right here. Come on, guys. That's, that's a joke, though. It's not really.
Yeah. Two more
Don't
and
tell.
we're out of here.
Yeah, don't tell Susie I said that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was at the 90-minute point, Jimbo. No,
Right.
she loves it because Susie is not a feminist per se.
Uh,
She's got feminine power, and she's a. You brought up Bessie Smith. I was like, man, this guy brought up Bessie, but um,
no,
she will,
she's one of a kind.
say she will say those words, chick singer. Like nowadays, you can't say words like that; they will shoot you. You know.
Yeah.
um, Thornton Wilder said, "Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret; it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time." Jimbo, you've laid your cards on the table for over 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?
Keeping it real
Yeah,
at all costs,
at all costs. What
which means
gives you the most? Oh, go ahead.
no, which means being honest with yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Honest with self. Yeah. What gives you the most optimism?
I think my well, I've been an optimist my whole life, actually. So it's kind of inbred in my DNA.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these half cooked cook guys that's like, yeah, but I should have this. Yeah, but well,
Yeah.
how come I'm not this? No, no. I get it. It's just, okay, I'll do the work, and I'll get when I get up and I'll get there, and then well,
Yeah.
yeah, I damn well tried.
Yep. It's the power of positive thinking. I was raised the same way. And
Yeah,
it's if you don't have dreams, your dreams can't come true. And it's accent the positive,
that's right.
neg- negate the negative.
You have to accentuate the positive. There.
Accentuate. Thank you. Someone knows these. So, anyways, Jimbo, it's been an honor and a pleasure. It was like a jam, man. This was like a musical jam, and I was really fond of you scat singing throughout and teaching me a lot about music and life. And the first question is I got it from Wilhelm Reich. He says, "What's the best thing for a human being?" And he said, "Another human being." And the last question is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life. Said, "What gives you the most optimism?" And he says, other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because it's you, Jimbo. Thank you so much.
Hey, mutual, man. Thank you, Jerry. I had a great time. This is we got into it.
Yep. And
Stuff that
even though,
the stuff that means something in life, not just what did you have for breakfast? No, what's behind it all,
yeah.
and
Well,
get in deep
you
on it.
you brought up earlier the word mirror, and it's been an amazing framing. If you see, there's your picture of paradise with your palm trees. But in the mirror over your other shoulder is the same picture, paradise. So it's like
Right.
Jimbo framed in paradise because you got the right attitude,
Mirror image. That's my Libra. It was my balance.
the balance.
Be
Yeah.
balanced. Paradise here, paradise there, and then boom, just across the board.
Well, I'm sure I'll run into you at Traders again live, but I'm going to hit the end broadcast button. But I hope this never ends and we can keep talking forever and ever. Thank you, Jimbo, for being who you are and all your amazing music. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having this happen. Love it. Thank you, Jerry.
All right.
All
Later,
right.
bye.